Alan Gallant loved to sing and public speaking. As a pastor for more than 3 decades, he enjoyed using his talents to deliver messages from the Bible. But Alan's life was changed forever when he suffered a stroke in July of 2017. Alan, welcome to 100 Huntley Street.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So tell me about your life before July 7th, 2017.
Well, my life was pretty normal, really. Having 5 kids, it keeps you quite busy, you know.
Sure does.
And up to that point, before the stroke, we had 2 grandsons, so we enjoyed being with them as well. Before the stroke, I was doing a little bit in ministry. I was church planting for about 5 years in the Niagara region. But in 2015, my wife and I resigned from the church plant. It was just really hard work, and we were really burnt out, really. And so we took a break from ministry, and we just did our thing, you know. We lived and enjoyed life with our family. We did a lot of things with our kids and family, but yeah, it was pretty routine, really.
And were you feeling any symptoms before you had the stroke, Alan?
Yeah, I did. I had high blood pressure for a long time. I knew about it, but I didn't really take care of myself. The normal routine of my life was I wasn't exercising, and I wasn't eating properly, and I really wasn't taking care of myself. When we resigned from the church plant, it wasn't because of burnout, and burnout came because I just didn't watch my soul. I didn't take care of myself physically or anything.
So spiritually and physically you were struggling at that point.
I was very much.
So you have the stroke, and the doctor says really it's amazing that you survived. I mean, as you mentioned, your blood pressure was literally off the charts.
It was. You know, my doctor said if I didn't get to the hospital within a short period of time, I would have died at home. My pressure was 221 over 189, and I like to say it's close to eternity, you know. But yeah, I had symptoms of, you know, I knew there was a lot of anxiety in me, but the blood pressure was very high. The interesting part, though, 4 days before the stroke happened to me, my doctor wanted to see me and start me on high blood pressure meds.
Okay.
I tried to stay healthy before the meds to lose weight and all of those things.
Exercise.
Right.
Things, yeah.
But I wasn't doing that very well. And so anyway, 4 days before I was going to be on these meds, I had the stroke.
So you weren't really supposed to survive, at least from the medical perspective.
No, that's right.
How long were you in the hospital?
I was in the hospital in Niagara Region Hospital for 10 days. No, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you did suffer some damage. I know you have difficulty speaking at times.
That's
You're
right.
doing great, by the way.
Thank you.
But there was some damage.
There was, and I didn't know the extent. You know what's interesting, Greg? When I had the stroke, you know, I didn't realize right away that it was a stroke until I got downstairs to the end of my stairs landing, and my mom was there to help me. But I soon knew that it was a stroke because I had an uncle I watched go through a stroke for years. And in my mind, knowing that I had a stroke, I was thinking I will be paralyzed, or I might be, you know, in bed or in a wheelchair or something like that. And so on the way to the hospital, my right hand was starting to curl in. And going there, I started to open up my hand and push it because I didn't want to be paralyzed. Okay. And I was scared and a lot of fear. I was numb too because of the shock and trauma. But yeah, when I got to the hospital, there was a potential of a lot of damage to be done.
So your life is now, you know,
Yeah.
totally changed.
It is.
But you said, Alan, that this was a spiritual wake-up call, even though you're, you know, going to church or
Yeah.
you'd been a pastor,
Yeah.
but you weren't spiritually where you felt you needed to be.
No one. So let's go back to the prior to the stroke. So things were normal in the sense of just doing life, but there was a lot of anger in my heart. My soul was empty. I forgot, and I purposely didn't refresh my soul in God or Jesus. I was just going through the motions. There was a lot of disappointment in my heart. I say when I speak to people, I had a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness, and I had an unforgiving spirit. And those three things were really destroying my soul. And so I was a man that was just a shell, you know. There was nothing in me to give.
You still believed in God.
Oh, yeah.
You still believed that Jesus is how you get to heaven.
I did, but I was really thinking about turning away from Him and the church because, you know, I love the church and I still do, but I was disappointed in so many things. But it wasn't the church, it was the state of my soul, you know. It was, I let those things damage me. And so I became critical, judgmental, and so, yeah, my soul wasn't in a good place. But when the stroke happened, I knew I could either reject God or accept Him, or accept what happened to me.
You want to get out of the lukewarm state.
Yeah, because I knew where my heart was. It was cold and dark. And so I knew Johnny Erickson Tata. I love what she said when she was
paralyzed when she
yeah,
had an accident.
and she was wondering why God did this or allowed this. And somebody said to her, Johnny, God permits what He hates to accomplish what He loves. And that really spoke to my heart so deeply. And this is why, you know, I knew God had permitted this stroke because He wanted to get my attention and change my lukewarm heart to a heart that was warm for Him.
We're just about a time, Alan, but
Yeah.
tell me what you're doing now because
Yeah.
this stroke obviously impacted your life and
it
you want to
did.
help people that are also struggling.
I do. So Agora Network Ministry was birthed out of my crisis. And so it's simply to bring hope and healing to the church. People need hope and healing. And even those within the church, I think especially those within the church, because sometimes the stigma of mental health is so great that people don't know how to express themselves or know how to get help. And even our pastors don't know how to help our people. And so Agora, our vision is to educate, equip, and engage the local church to the stigma inside and outside the walls of the church.
Well, thank you, Alan, for coming and sharing your story. We have your website up on the screen if people want to connect with you. It's very important. And, you know, as I was getting ready to do this interview, I was thinking of the scripture, you know, from Romans 8:28, all things work together for good. Doesn't mean that these things that happened were good things, but because you love Jesus, He can turn it around and He's using in ways
for His glory.
For His glory, Well, thank you again for sharing. Maybe you need hope or healing today. Please know that we have our prayer lines always open. Whenever you're watching this program, feel free to call compassionate people on the other end of that phone that will pray with you, will talk with you, encourage you. Call now, 1-866-273-4444. Or if you want to email us at prayer@crossroads.ca.